Sean Kirst, journalist resident at Lemoyne College and columnist with the Central Current at Syracuse, has worked as an upstate journalist for more than 50 years. He is the recipient of the Ernie Powell Award, given annually to one American journalist for writing about the dreams and struggles of everyday people, as well as many other state and national awards. He is the recipient of the Ernie Powell Award, given annually to American journalists for writing about the dreams and struggles of everyday people. Kirst was named Civic Wisdom Keeper by Focus, Greater Syracuse. His name was placed on a wall of distinction by the Syracuse Press Club for a lifetime achievement in journalism. He has been honored with the Federal Department of Justice for sensitivity to victims of violent crime. He received honorary degrees from Lemoyne and Onondaga Community College. Over the years, Kirst has given many talks about the importance of storytelling in journalism, especially in a fast-changing digital age. This will be his third talk. He is the author of 3 books, and the England-based Tolkien Society credits Kirst with serving as founder of International Tolkien Readings, now celebrated around the world. Welcome to the stage, Sean, and his talk, Amid the Flood, the Imperative of True Stories.
Good evening. So I'm a journalist, but in actuality, I'm a columnist, and within being a columnist, I'm a storyteller. I've been doing that for a long time, and really what I do is I try to tell stories, true stories about the magnitude and value of the lives of everyday human beings. But you know, we are living at a moment when there is a deluge of information coming down that some people I love dearly, people I've worked in this business for a long time, they feel that it threatens the very essence of what we do. And I'm here to say that I'm a true believer. And what I want to do is share 3 true stories tonight that I hope will get to sort of the, at least within what I do, the essence of where we've been, where we are now, and you know, hopefully where we're going. And story 1 involves Kathleen Snavely. So 12, 13 years ago, I'm working as a columnist for the Syracuse Post-Standard, Syracuse.com, and a national publication called Irish Central releases a story that says the oldest human being in the history of the Republic of Ireland, I mean, contemplate that, oldest human being in the history of the Republic of Ireland is not only still alive, 111 years old, oldest person ever born there, but she is living in Syracuse, New York. Camillus. I'm like, what? Right? And I got to tell this story, this preposterous, incredible, true story. So I start making calls, and what I find out is that Kathleen Snavely is living in a nursing home in Camillus, New York. She's 111 years old. So, of course, what do? I call the nursing home, right? And I say, hey, I'm a journalist. I'd love to come out and talk to Kathleen. And they say to me, sorry, sir, Mrs. Snavely declines all interviews, wants no media attention. So, you know, of course, I accept that, but I also make an assumption. I think, okay, what this means is that Kathleen is ill. She's not well, and yeah, you know, they're protecting her. They don't want anybody to talk to her. So I come back and I start making calls. I find out she's widowed. I find out she has no children. And I called the great genealogist, Megan Smolinak, who's done famous work, you know, around the world. And it turns out that Megan had researched Kathleen, and she tells me some information about her. Kathleen comes over in 1921 from Ireland, and she was listed as a domestic on the manifest of the ship she came over on, a domestic being a house cleaner. And when, you know, makes more calls, when she arrives in Syracuse, she has $2 in her pocket. and immediately starts taking, what work she can find. And what happens is that Kathleen digs her feet in. She gets married before too long. She and her husband operate a business, a dairy in Syracuse, and that business begins to prosper, and prosper in a serious way. Eventually, she loses her husband, but Kathleen is astute in business, keeps going, remarries, and as an indication of just how well Kathleen Snavely did in the city of Syracuse, about 80 years after she arrives here, she donates $1 million to the Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University in order to give opportunities to young people that she never had. So that is Kathleen Snavely. But then, I make some more calls, and I talk to some of her friends who tell me that she is warm and incredibly sharp and funny. And in terms of savvy, how about this? In 2008, before the great crash, Kathleen did what the titans of business globally failed to do. She said, something bad is coming. Kathleen saw it coming at 105 years old. That's Kathleen Snavely, right? So I write that piece, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. I got all this information, quite a story, true story, put it together, and I write the column and get it in the paper, and life goes on. And a day or two later, I get a call. It's Lori Black. Lori Black is a civic advocate, a volunteer, and she's also happens to be a longtime friend of one Kathleen Snavely. And she says, hey, Sean, Kathleen would like to talk to you. I'm like, wow, Kathleen Snavely wants to talk to me? The danger of making assumptions, right? Like, that's amazing. I didn't think she was up to it, but up to it. So it's a couple days later, St. Patrick's Day, true story. I get in the car and I drive out to Camillus, and I go into the nursing home there, and I walk into Kathleen's room, and boom, there she is, right? She's sitting in a chair with that green sweater on, those beads around her neck, the shawl, white hair, electric aura of intelligence and humor and warmth. I mean, you feel it when you walk in that room, boom, shamrocks on her bed table. And but what I find out quickly is that Kathleen did not call me out there to tell me how wonderful she thought the column was. Colleen wanted to set me straight. So I sit down and she says, look, I did not come to the United States to wash the sheets of the rich. And line that I can hear the music in her voice when she said this to me. She says, a domestic I never was. A domestic I never was. Her family was hurting back in Ireland. It was hard times. She told me about leaving her brothers, expecting she'd never see them again. What she said to them as she left, the grief of that, the power of that. As I'm talking to her, as I'm sitting there like that, she is reaching out, grabbing my hand, like a grip like iron, like making sure that what I relate is correct about her life, because it meant so much to her that I got it right. She had lived 111 years, and she had faced incredible change, and she had persevered at every step. And if somebody was going to write about her, damn it, she wanted to make sure that it was correct. That is Kathleen Snavely. So, the point of this to me, the point of what the story that she handed down to me is that, the true story, the power of it, the warmth of it, the humanity of it, I would like to think overrides everything, that she simply wanted a true story. But, I guess that's what we all want out of our life, right? But what's the problem with that right now in this world? True story should be obvious. Well, pick up your phone, go to your laptop, go to social media, and what do you find? What you find everywhere is, how about How about all these anecdotal stories about celebrities and what they did and what they said? And if I see one more story, I mean, I love the Buffalo Bills. I love Josh Allen. But if I see one more baloney story about Josh Allen donating $200 million to some institution or something, I'm going to explode. Everywhere there's these false, phony stories about celebrities. But worse to me, maybe because of what I do, are the schlocky, baloney, made-up, AI, phony images, stories about people in a parking lot attendant or a guy in the subway, or these completely manufactured tales about kindness and warmth and compassion that, sound great, except the only person benefiting from it when you or I share that phony story is whoever created it, who's making money off it. But they're phony stories. They're not true. I've been at this business, so this month, as I'll mention to you later, this is like kind of a cool month to do this talk. I've been at this business 52 years. 52 years, I am an old man. It was 52 years ago in April that I got my first paycheck as a journalist. Been at it a long time. Digital change has turned my world upside down. It has unemployed my friends. It has closed papers that I worked at. It has been a tumult over that time. But the one thing that I believe in the bottom of my heart, is the true story. That love and sorrow and passage and grief and anger and truth bond every person in this hall. And that if I write about that correctly, it bonds me to you. Right? But the problem is this syrup of phoniness, right? I mean, AI is great. AI makes it that there ought to be, this wave of information that it brings to us, and I'll mention this later, can make it even better, more powerful to tell the true story. But at its worst, it drowns it. It separates us. It isolates us. It leaves us living in myth. And that's what we're up against now, right? And in the worst scenario, that's what's next. So I would say, if we need a motto, we got to look at the way Kathleen lived her life. I mean, think of the fact that she comes over on a ship, how long that took. She lived 111 years, and at every turn when they gave her the ball, she found a hole through the line, and she excelled. So she becomes a model for what we've got to do next, right? So what I would think, actually thinking about the period when she was born, is what I think we need. And this town is the town to think about this. We need an arts and crafts movement in storytelling and journalism. Well, what's this guy mean by arts and craft and storytelling? So that comes into story number 2, which is Irving Gill. Irving Gill. Who's Irving Gill? In this town, it's astounding to me that we don't know who Irving Gill is. Irving Gill was born in Tully, up in that beautiful part of Onondaga County, the rooftop of Onondaga County, 155 years ago. I think it's 1870 he's born. And when he's a kid, his family moves into the city. He goes to Syracuse City Schools. I mean, he is a distinguished graduate. Although when he graduates in the late 1800s, he does not go to college, takes a job as a clerk at a local architect's office. And Irving sort of embraces that work, and he does so well, he gets called to Chicago to work for Joseph Silsbee. Who's Joseph Silsbee? Syracuse Savings Bank, right next to Clinton Square. Silsbee designed it. He's brilliant. His name should be known by more of us, but he's an important American architect. He had moved to Chicago. Gill goes to Chicago to work for Silsbee, and Gill blossoms. He's this fragile, gentle young guy. He blossoms in Silsbee's office. Pretty soon he moves on to work for Louis Sullivan, father of the American skyscraper, incredibly important architect. In the offices of Louis Sullivan, Gill's peer, his colleague, his close friend, Frank Lloyd Wright. All those people in the same office. At that place, Irving Gill embraces the arts and crafts movement. Late 19th century. Why is it important that we know what that is? Well, number one, I mean, Syracuse was a hotbed of this movement. Stickley was here. Stickley was here, was a champion of arts and crafts. The idea of arts and crafts, think of this, think of the corollary. The idea of arts and crafts is that there's this wave of industrialization. You know, people who have been working on farms are being pulled into factories. People who used to make tables by hand, now factories are making table legs by the hundreds of thousands, and the people making them are standing in factories for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. The humanity goes out of the work. The heart goes out of the work. It becomes a cruel business. Industry takes away the soul of this thing. And the idea of the arts and crafts movement was to stand in the middle of that, look into it, stop it, and try and bring back soul, humanity, craftsmanship, artistry, humanity. I mean, think of that corollary right now, because what we've got going on now is kind of an industrialization of simulation, right? It's the industrialization of ideas. It is the industrialization of imagination. It's rolling down the hill at us. So yeah, so Irving Gill embraces the arts and crafts movement. And that's what he uses early in his career. But then he goes to San Diego, which is where he does his really important work, where he becomes a pioneer of the modern movement of architecture. And then one of the things that he did that I find particularly moving, he embraced concrete. I mean, concrete, right? You know, who sees artistry in concrete? Well, that's what was coming. It was what was next. Irving Gill takes concrete and he starts doing this incredibly beautiful architecture, humane architecture, graceful architecture. He believed that you built with concrete and then you let nature decorate it. You would build a beautiful arch and you'd let nature come onto it and put vines on it and put plants on it. But one of the things that he did that impressed me most was he designed these cottages for working people that were clean and small and graceful. And we're talking about Irving Gill, you know, more than a century ago, except what do we need right now? It's the biggest crisis in this country. It's housing, right? This guy was thinking about ways to put up people in a beautiful way who did not have a lot of money, did not have a lot of means. So that's what Irving Gill did. So, you know, my argument would be we need exactly the same thing for journalism, for storytelling. We have to look at what's coming because it's here. It's going to be here. And reach into it and take out the best. Well, what do I mean? I mean, it is like God gifted me this for this talk tonight because I was thinking about this example when I wrote this thing a month ago. Here's what I mean by arts and crafts and storytelling. This has been Syracuse, New York, as everyone who in here knows, snowiest big city in the United States of America, right? Syracuse, New York, winter of 2025, 26. Man, this has been one fierce, brutal winter, right? And there was snow cover for months. It was hard. I remember in early March, I'm thinking, this is just not going to break. This was like one long winter, right? Well, here's what I would mean by it. What are we feeling right now, today, this day? I practiced this speech on our back deck at the house. The neighbors undoubtedly thought I lost my mind, but I practiced this speech in our back deck, barefoot in pajama bottoms, and I'm walking across that deck, and the wood was warm from the sun because this is one of the nicest Aprils we've ever seen. Spring never comes in April, and here it is. I'm walking across that deck, and the wood is warm on my feet. Syracuse, New York, April, spring, it's warm in my feet. I walk out to the sidewalk, that breeze hits my face, it is warm, and here is the thing that you all know, that this is so special to Syracuse. I saw it starting to happen today. The buds are coming out in the maples. The buds are coming out in the maples, right? What's going to happen is what I call leaf day. Watch this, within a week, all the maples are going to come out at once. I'll tell you, Central New York is one of the largest concentrations of maple trees in the country. All the maples will come out at once. along the Onondaga Valley in the city. And when they come out, you know this feeling. They come out and it is this insane fluorescent green. It's a green like you only see once a year. It is so beautiful, and it is particularly beautiful to us because we live in the snowiest large city in the United States. And when the maples come out in the spring, it is an unbelievable, incredible feeling. And what do I mean by the arts and crafts movement and storytelling? What I mean is that you could leave this place right now. That brings us together. It is as real as the air we're breathing in this room. You could leave this place, go back to your laptop, hit search 1,000,000 times, use AI 1,000,000 times, and you are never going to feel what I'm talking to you about right now about that spring, because artificial intelligence does not mean emotional communion, right? And that's what we've got. But, so that's why I would like to think, I will say this, artificial intelligence, I'm not, it's here. Artificial intelligence might tell an idiot like me why, the maples do all come out at once. It might give me that scientific answer, which is important. But it's not going to create the feeling that bonds us like it bonds us right now. So, so that's what I mean by arts and crafts and storytelling. But what's the next problem? Here's the real problem. So I'm hoping that we all agree that that is a truth, that what I just said is a truth. We shared that moment. We share that feeling. The problem is that right now, in the world as it is, lies are so easy. The old line about lies going halfway around the world before truth puts on its boots. The lies are all out there, right? So easy to find. I see people that I love and respect who share some of this baloney because they believe it. It's right there. They're grabbing it. They're moving it around, right? The lie is so easy. And so often, the truth is behind a paywall. Can't get at it. Costly subscription, paywall, isolated financially. So that truth becomes a matter of financial access. And if you have truth over here requiring financial access, and you have lies over here for free, hey, I don't have to be Kathleen Snavely to tell you who's going to win that one, right? So story number 3. Alfonso Whitehurst. So who's Alfonso Whitehurst? My wife, Nora, was a city school teacher in Syracuse for many years, taught at the Elmwood Elementary School, and is retired now. But she was, I believe, she is an extraordinary human being, and she developed extraordinary bonds with her students. And many of these students, she would say, hey, why don't you come play Little League? She and I were both officers in Southside American, a city Little League in Syracuse. I coached there. So many of her kids would come over and play Little League. And one of the kids who came over was Alfonso. And Alfonso, I guess he came when he was in 2nd grade or something like that. And what we all quickly realized is that probably no child in that Little League loved baseball the way Alfonso Whitehurst loved baseball. He was the kid. Anybody who's coached any sport knows this kid. He's the kid who would show up early to line the fields. If he'd go to the concession stand and sell popsicles if we needed him to do it. He'd be there first, and he'd leave last. He just loved Little League. That's who he was. Well, as time goes on, start to learn a little about Alfonso's story, and find out that he and his siblings, endured kind of unimaginable tragedy when they were little. Alfonso was essentially orphaned when he was 2 or 3 years old, and at different points in his life faced a lot of hardship, a lot of obstacles. I remember him telling me once, and he was a very wise human being. I remember him telling me once, there was a period we were moving so much that if somebody could give me a ride home, I'd have him drop me off at my last spot, my last place, and I'd walk to my new place because I didn't want him to know I had moved again. Alfonso, faced struggle, and yet it was just so formidable, and this incredible humanity and this incredible belief, and he kept going. And you know, I'll tell you this, Alfonso faced the same problem that everybody faces who comes into my life. You can ask my family about this. I write about them. You come into my life, I'm going to write about it. I write about my dogs. I write about my family. I write about everything. And so, you know, it's like, that's what you get if you know me. So anyways, I wrote about Alfonso, his last game of Little League, 12 years old. He played in our Little League 8 years or something. All he'd ever wanted to do was hit a home run, right? Alfonso Whitehurst, final game of Little League, hit the freaking ball out to the swing set. Home run, the whole neighborhood exploded. I mean, I wrote a column about that. And I wrote a column 10 years ago when Alfonso walked the stage at Utica College and earned the degree that allows him to be a teacher and a coach in the city of Syracuse today. So what is my point here is that in terms of the way that he continues, that he remains a gift in my life and continues to affect my life. Not long ago, a year and a half ago, Alfonso gets a hold of me. He says, "Hey, Mr. Kirst," and I'm sorry he still calls me Mr. Kirst, but that's probably going to be because I'm an old man, you know. He says, "Hey, Mr. Kirst, you know, could you get me copies of those columns you wrote about me? Because I want to show them to the kids I coach." And I said to him, "Al, I can get you the words. I can make a copy of the words and I can email them to you. I can give you the text, but I can't send you the whole column because they're behind a paywall. You know, and there's no way for me to do it. I have no special power to clear a paywall. I can't send you the whole column because they're behind a paywall." And, you know, in both instances, great photographers had done great work on Al and the teams he was involved with. You know, so it was disappointing to him that he couldn't get the photographs. And he said to me, and I mean, I remember this conversation. I will remember it for the rest of my life. He says to me, "You know, it seems to me, if guys like you are going to write about guys like me so that the kids I coach who are in the situations I used to be in can look at my life and benefit from that experience and find out where they're going, well, it seems to me they ought to be able to access those articles." And what do I say to that? Alfonso Whitehurst was talking to me, but Alfonso Whitehurst was talking to the entire American journalism community, because the true story ought to be available to everybody, or, right, the norm becomes deceit. So anyways, true story. About a year ago right now, I got an offer to join an outfit called the Central Current. It's a nonprofit, foundation-funded, free access site in Syracuse. And anything I write, anybody can write anytime they want. And yeah, you know, I understand why some papers, I mean, I left a job I love in Buffalo with a paper I loved to take that position. And I understand, you know, all the different arguments about why some papers need subscriptions. But certainly in this day and age, we need to have that kind of free access, because at a time when you know, falsity is coming at us in an avalanche, we need to have truths. There was a recent Pew Research Center study that said barely half of young readers have any faith in traditional media. And maybe that's just because they can't get at it, right? But, you know, so anyways, I mean, really, my point with all of this is the true story, the power of the true story. I believe it will persevere. I believe that it will rise, that it will shine through this. I believe we can elevate it. I believe that we can stand and face this wave of digital information and take the true story out of it. But it's got to be a difference that we choose to make. And I would just say this. I would just say this about you know, Kathleen Snavely, this 111-year-old immigrant from Ireland. I would say this about Irving Gill, born on a farm in Tully, who goes on to become one of the world's great architects. I would say this about Alfonso Whitehurst, who to this day, as we speak, he's coaching right now while I'm doing this, is this day, as we speak, is changing the lives of children. They faced great change. They found great beauty. Let's make that our true story. Thank you.